So in this video, what we want to do is to take each of these pairs of equations in turn and determine whether they are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So the first one here, the first pair, what we really want to do first is to make sure that the two equations are in the form of y equals mx plus c. Once they're in that format, they're very easy to identify whether they're parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So let's start off with this first pair. Y equals 4 plus 2x is almost in that form, and you can identify that the gradient here is 2. If you prefer, you can always write it this way round. So it is in the form of y equals mx plus c. So the gradient here of the first line is 2. Now for the second line, 2y take away x equals 3, we've got to do a little bit more work. So I'm going to add the x to both sides, and I'm going to choose to put it before the 3 to make it more in that format of y equals mx plus c. And then divide through by 2, so y is 1/2 x plus 3/2. So here, the second gradient is 1/2. Now, in this case, M1 is not equal to M2, so that means that they're not parallel. And if I multiply the two gradients together, I get 2 times 1/2, which is 1. So they are reciprocals of one another, but they're not negative reciprocals of one another. So that means that they're not perpendicular either. Okay, so the product of the gradients has got to be equal to -1 in order for them to be perpendicular. So because they're not parallel nor perpendicular, these are neither. Okay, let's have a look at number 2. So we have 2y plus x is equal to 9. So let's rearrange this. We'll subtract x from both sides first, and I'll choose to put it before the 9, and then divide through by 2. Y is equal to -1/2 x plus 9/2. So the gradient here of the first line is -1/2. For the second line, y equals 8 take away 1/2 x, you can easily spot that -1/2 is going to be the gradient. If you prefer, you can write it in this format. So it is in the form y equals mx plus c. And so M1 is equal to M2. So that means that they are parallel. Oh, sorry. All right. Let's look at number 3. 2y take away x equals 7. So let's rearrange this one first. Add the x to both sides, and then divide through by 2. So here we can see that the gradient is 1/2. For the second line, we can see that the gradient is -2. You could also write that as -2x plus 6 if you prefer. So the second gradient is -2. Now here, if we multiply those two gradients together, we get 1/2 times -2, which is -1. So that is telling me that they are perpendicular. They're not equal to one another, so they're definitely not parallel. But because when you multiply them you get -1, that means that they are perpendicular. They are negative reciprocals of one another. Well, the gradients are. Okay? So that's how we can tell if two lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither.